Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today it's time to saddle up again. This is my announcement video for June on the Range 2025. So you may have tuned in today expecting to get a review video, which is what normally goes up on a Thursday. Instead, you have something far more exciting, my announcement video for June on the Range 2025. So this is a fantastic reading event created by the great Michael K. Vaughan. This is the 4th year of June on the Range. It's a really enjoyable event, and it is an event dedicated to reading Westerns. Now, Westerns are, I think, nowadays very much a neglected genre. At one point, Westerns were everywhere. They were hugely, hugely popular from the early days of publishing. So, some of the first books that were published in the US in particular were dime novels, which were often Westerns. So very cheaply produced books telling, daring tales of adventures in the West, and written, contemporary to the Western period. So often pertaining to be about real characters, although I think usually the characters were made up. So often, pretending to be true stories of the West. And, they continued to be successful from then in kind of the 1850s through to really the 1950s and 60s. And then, after that, Westerns really started dying out, both as novels and also in the world of cinema. So it's a really interesting genre to revisit, and there are so many great Westerns out there, including some more modern ones. So this year, as always, Michael is joined by a whole posse of co-hosts. I will leave links to all of their channels in the description to the video. Do go and check out their announcement videos as well. I think in previous years Michael has suggested there are 2 authors who it's worth checking out, and I've read both of them in previous years and agree they are both interesting and enjoyable Western writers. So the first of those is Zane Grey. So Zane Grey really, considered to be the grandfather of the Western fiction genre, really. And his novel Riders of the Purple Sage is like a classic Western, and definitely worth checking out. And because he wrote a very long time ago, all of his books are available for free on Project Gutenberg, so you can get them for no cost at all. The other writer that Michael recommends is Louis L'Amour, and again I've read a few Louis L'Amour novels in previous June on the Ranges, and he's also really good. So a very, very prolific writer. I think he wrote hundreds of books, and wrote, I think, particularly in kind of the 50s and 60s. But I've always had a good time with the Louis L'Amour books I've read, although I've always thought his name doesn't sound appropriate for for a Western writer. It almost sounds more like a rip-off of Pepe Le Pew, the cartoon skunk, doesn't it? Anyway, let me talk to you about what I think I might read this year for June on the Range. So I will do a proper TBR video nearer the time, but I've got a few things here which are things I bought for previous June on the Ranges, and didn't get round to those times. Before I do that though, one book I would definitely recommend if you fancy trying some Westerns is this book. So this is the Western from the Library of America. Michael very kindly sent me this copy, I think when it was the first June on the Range. And there are 4 novels in here from the 40s and 50s. I've read the first 3 and they were all excellent. So those 3 are The Oxbow Incident by Walter Van Tilburg Clarke, which is about a posse going out to get some cattle rustlers, but it's a really deep and interesting book, but very exciting and tense as well. Shane by Jack Schaefer, which is just a fantastic, prototypical Western. It's got everything you would expect from a Western. Great characters, some great tension, some great gunfights, a really, really good book. And then The Searchers by Alan LeMay, which is another great one. There's one in here which I haven't read yet, Warlock by Oakley Hall. So that's the one I think I'm going to read, or certainly one of the books I'm going to read this year for June on the Range. Another author I really like, who I've read in previous June on the Ranges, is Elmore Leonard. So best known nowadays for his crime fiction, but started out writing Westerns and wrote loads of Western short stories. There's a lovely, I've got it up there somewhere, a lovely big edition of all of his Western short stories that were originally published in kind of pulp and men's magazines. But he wrote Western novels as well, including the one that became the movie 3:10 to Yuma. Or actually, I think maybe that was based on a short story rather than a novel. But yeah, his Western fiction is really, really good. Elmore Leonard has a really stripped down style of writing. He leaves out one of his rules of writing, one of his famous rules of writing, is to leave out the bits that readers tend to skip, and he definitely does that, and that works very, very well for Westerns. So definitely recommend Elmore Leonard as well. Right, to get to 3 books that I bought in previous June on the Ranges and didn't get to then. So the first one is The Authentic Death of Henry Jones by Charles Needer, which came recommended highly by an author called Stark Holborn, who wrote an excellent series of Western novellas called Nunslinger, which I really recommend. You can get them in a single volume. So yeah, Nunslinger is another book I really recommend. And Stark Holborn speaks very highly of this book. So it's one I think I'm going to try and read this year. This edition is lovely. It's got like nice... they're not end papers, are they? Because those will be at the end. But anyway, it's got a nice picture when you open it up. Another one by an author I really, really like, but I've only read his horror and science fiction, is Richard Matheson. So I have 2 Richard Matheson Westerns in this slightly strangely shaped paperback. It's taller and narrower than a paperback should be, in my opinion, but it does feel quite nice in the hand. So this has Journal of the Gun Years and The Gunfight. So Richard Matheson, yeah, best known for writing horror and science fiction. I Am Legend, probably most famously. But yeah, this is supposed to be very good as well. And then I also have one which is more based on like the Native American experience, which is something that can get ignored in Westerns. So this is Fool's Crow by James Welch. And that, I think, brings me to, one of the reasons why Westerns have, I think, tended to die out as a genre is that fact that, some early Westerns, and Zane Grey's books are definitely true, this is definitely true for Zane Grey's books, can be quite problematic in terms of their representation of particularly Native Americans and also Mexicans. There's a lot of like anti-Mexican racism in Zane Grey's books. So do consider that when going into Westerns. But yeah, this book is supposed to be one that kind of rebalances things a little bit. So I am keen to read that as well. But clearly I'm someone who enjoys a quick, trashy read too. So I do have a stack here of kind of like paperbacks from long running series. So both of these series ran into the hundreds of books. So I have a few Lone Star. So I've got Long Arm. So I've got Long Arm and the Lone Star Rustlers, Long Arm and the Vanishing Virgin. So Long Arm is like a marshal who travels around the Old West solving crime. So these tend to have kind of a bit of a mystery element to them as well, and also always a little bit of sauciness. And also I've got Long Arm and the Arizona Flame. And then from the Gunsmith series, I have the Cherokee Strip, The Man with the Iron Badge. So these are by J.R. Roberts on the cover. It was actually Robert Randisi who wrote these. And unlike the Long Arm books, where multiple authors wrote those books, the Gunsmith books were all written by the same guy, and you can see this one is book 331 in the series, so he was incredibly prolific. And then I've also got an earlier one, Outlaw Trail. So yeah, I'm definitely going to enjoy reading some of these slightly smaller, slightly easier Westerns, as well as the more, I guess these ones, I don't know about the Matheson, but certainly the James Welch and the Charles Needer, I think, are slightly deeper, more complex books. The other 2 things I really want to do for June on the Range this year is firstly to read some dime novels. So as I said, dime novels were, one of the first forms of publishing, really, certainly one of the first forms of popular publishing in the US, and many of them were Western. So I'm really keen to read some Western dime novels, and because they're so old, you can get hold of them, digitally for free. So I'm going to try and dig out some dime novels to read, and then I also really want to read some stuff by Max Brand. So I read a Dr. Kildare book by Max Brand recently, but he's best known for being a Western writer, and I enjoyed the Kildare book so much. I really want to try some of his Westerns. So he wrote dozens of them. Many of them are available on Kobo Plus, which I'm a subscriber to. So I'm going to check those out as well. Anyway, those are my kind of tentative picks for Junior on the Range. As I said, I'll come back with a more comprehensive TBR nearer the time when I whittle things down a bit. Maybe not more comprehensive, more what's the word I'm looking for? More accurate TBR when I've decided exactly what I'm going to read. But do let me know in the comments if you're going to be taking part. Do let me know what you'll be reading. Let me have any Western recommendations of your own. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.